Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing growing pressure in Israel over his handling of the Israel-Hamas war, with protests calling for his ouster reaching the halls of Israeli parliament Wednesday, and Netanyahu's political rivals calling for new, early elections. Yair Lapid, the centrist leader of the political opposition in Israel, appeared to respond to Gantz's calls for a new election but went even further, writing on X that Israel could not wait another 6 months, and calling for the most dangerous and failed government in the country's history to go home as soon as possible. Netanyahu's own party, the Likud Party, reportedly accused Gantz of engaging in petty politics just because his party is disintegrating. The Likud Party pushed back on the idea of new elections, arguing they would inevitably lead to paralysis in the midst of a war. Netanyahu himself has not yet responded to calls for a new election, but has resisted similar calls in the past. Most recently, he alleged that U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer's calls before Congress for a new Israeli election were totally inappropriate. Netanyahu was last elected in 2022 after briefly being ousted in 2021 amid corruption allegations. He has since assembled one of the most far-right governments in Israel's history. Anti-government protests were raging in Israel prior to the October 7th attack and the start of the war, driven in large part by criticism over Netanyahu's controversial plan to weaken the country's Supreme Court. Last year, protests drew as many as 500,000 Israelis. The protests largely stopped in the wake of the October 7th attack, but appear to be rejuvenated by the ongoing war. Meanwhile, local polls in Israel have shown Gantz, the leader of Israel's National Unity Party, as polling ahead of Netanyahu. Israel continues to face global scrutiny over its handling of the humanitarian aspect of the war, particularly after an Israeli airstrike killed 7 aid workers with the humanitarian organization the World Central Kitchen.130. That's how many hostages taken by Hamas on October 7 are believed to still be held captive in Gaza. Biden is reportedly set to speak with Netanyahu by phone Thursday, after Biden said he was outraged by Israel's killing of the World Central Kitchen aid workers. Tensions between the world leaders have been growing in recent months, especially as Israel continues to signal its intention to invade the Gazan city of Rafah, an invasion that aid organizations have said could lead to a humanitarian disaster.